What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we're going to be getting into how deep tier can be a great way to help some of your Achilles issues and maintain some of your jumping work. I'll also be doing a session, getting back into my final couple of weeks of weighted jumps, and I'm out here having a water fight with my daughter. All right, I'll see you in there. Using some deep tier movements when you have Achilles issues is a great way to keep jumping volume in. Now, you're not going to be doing as much stiff, reactive work because the Achilles and lower leg complex is doing so much. When you're trying to be reactive and stiff, you're not calling upon as much joint flexion at the knee and at the hip to be those main contributors when it comes to reactive stiff work. So light, medium, and ping tier might be out the window. You might be able to do a little bit of light stuff. Most of the time it's going to aggravate it if you're in the midst of trying to resolve some of those issues. But deep tier work can be great to keep some quality work in. It's going to be a bit more yielding in nature, but that's fine. So what I'm going to show you here is a series of movements that you can do, or ways in which you can focus in on creating movement variations that are going to allow you to do a body of quality work. And we're going to do some deep tier stuff. So the first one is using a front foot elevation, and this front foot elevation is great. Reason being, obviously I'm going to do a split stance movement here, is actually this foot and shin angle is not going to change. We're going to be working more primarily on the hips, and more than anything really is the knee joint and how much flexion you're going to get into that. So if I think about fixing this front shin, and I'm going to get into a position where I feel comfortable. So if I need to bring the knee a little bit closer, this back knee, to make sure that I'm dropping vertically, so it's all up and down kind of motion, if I can get my balance. And here what we see is we don't see this change in shin angle. So this can be your starting point. So let's say my left Achilles is the one that's getting peed off here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use that left foot to be the planted leg on this front foot elevation. And what I can do here is I can oscillate down in here. I don't even necessarily have to leave the elevation. Obviously, if I want to, I can go from a static oscillation to more of a landed based oscillation. And then over time, I can then do more of an explosive form of that movement. So fixing this front shin into a vertical position is a great way to start out some movement when you're having an Achilles issue. Now, obviously you can scale up these from using that front foot elevation to then just getting into a normal split stancing action. So we can then just get into full up and down motion, and you will see a little bit more of the shin going from vertical into a little bit of positive shin angle. The more that you allow that foot to go forward, the less it's gonna drive forward. So that might be the irritating factor there, is that this action might be the thing that's aggravating a little bit to start with. I do think over time that getting into a little bit of positive shin angle will be something that I think that the Achilles will eventually start to like, and it will like to be taken through that, because you're not getting this mechanism where if you're landing, it's not being taken through aggressive eccentric or lengthening phases to then be propelled back up with a rapid shortening contraction there in the Achilles. So we can start using just a normal split stance leap as a way to progress that, and that then becomes a step forward into a split exchange. And the reason being why that then is a step up from the split stance movement is as this back leg comes forward, we're going to have a rapid deceleration and drop of that shin, and really the decelerating factor comes in that deceleration of the shin coming forward. We don't want it to go any more forward than it is, so we decelerate it, and then we come back out of that by moving into positive shin angle and then out of positive shin angle. That again is going to be a step up because the Achilles is going through that lengthening and shortening at a faster rate. Now, this might not necessarily be complete progression on from the split stance to split exchange motions, but what I do like here with these step-in lunges is the active work of the lower leg here to control braking and then propel us back. So in here, we're still getting the active use of the lower legs, some degree, not massive because we're not going through big plantar flexion, but we are promoting some faster landing patterns and ways in which we can, again, take that shin through positive and then negative shin angles, okay? You might then want to progress that to having a little bit more speed into it. So I like to use this slalom action as a way to rapidly start to load the lower leg. And as we move in and out of that, there's just more of a faster control of the lower shank. And it's going to enable the Achilles to start working at a faster, engaged rate as we do that, which I think is all great in building back that capacity. And more importantly, confidence in that your lower leg can control what's happening. Your Achilles can take that rapid onset of loading and eventually get back to a stage where we can do some more stiffer overcoming work. Now, as we progress into more of a, I'd say more of an aggressive kind of shin angle here, but what is nice about this is you are relatively fixed when you're oscillating. So although a kind of a deeper shin angle, so more into this sort of shin angle, it may annoy it may frustrate you with regards to some of the Achilles flare-ups that you might get regularly. But when you've progressed from some of the split stance movements and you're getting into something where you feel a little bit more comfortable with the shins being a little bit more forward, then I think that you move on to a leaping oscillatory pattern. The oscillation is keeping this more fixed stance of the shin, and you're not progressing into dorsiflexion, into active plantar flexion. And what we can do is we can then move into a full deep tier leap. Okay, so that deep tier leap, it will progress from this oscillating movement to full flexion and extension. And I think this is the best starting component to loading the Achilles through dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. So I'll show you some side on and you'll see good flexion and extension patterns across all joints as well, which I think is critical when it comes to teasing in elements of more progressive overload there. So when we have all three joints sequentially working, I think the potential injured areas are probably going to feel a little bit more comfortable and safer when it comes to that, because let's say my right Achilles is the one that's pissed off. It's okay for the time being as it gets back more confidence in that, you know what, maybe I'm using a little bit more hips to get the job done of full plantar flexion as I want to see when my Achilles is not injured. So the knees and the hip extensors doing a little bit more work there, I'm not too bothered because we're eventually going to get back to it feeling more confident in driving through the ground. So we will go from oscillatory leaping pattern to full leaping pattern, and then where we then take that step forward is in rolling through the foot with more forward based actions. And that can start with a low ceiling leap and then be progressed into a full leaping pattern that's forward. And why? Because we're seeing more and more aggressive shin angles into what is potentially a harder movement to plantar flex out of because of there being such deep dorsiflexion. Now, when I say hard, it isn't to the degree and rapid rate in which your Achilles would work if you were doing ping tier or massively overcoming based movements, sprinting, plyometrics. It isn't the same, it's very different. There is a lot more active work from the calf that's happening there with regards to eccentric and concentric movement patterns, but that's fine. That's what we want to get to. We want to get to loading the Achilles gradually and not trying to overload it rapidly. So those are your step ups into a leaping pattern. So the final piece for moving back into some jumping movements with regards to Achilles issues is getting into something like a balance hop. Balance hops are beautiful because we freeze the free leg and we balance it out in front of us so that the standing leg is going to do all the work. What I really love about this is we're going to get great flexion and extension patterns out of the whole system. So we're not going to overload the Achilles too much because we are getting contribution from the hip and from the knee here as they extend. But I love that kind of accordion base, like going into kind of like a slinky base, flexion and compression there. So let's have a look at some balance hops here. Now you obviously can take it as deep or as shallow as you want it to at first. Ultimately, your Achilles is going to prefer it being slowed down at first, and it's not going to like you trying to do it rapidly. But that's a great way to really build on all of these movements that we've gone through. If you want to load the Achilles more over time, you ask your clients or yourself to increase things by 5–10% at a time. And what I mean by percentage is, let's make it stiffer, let's make it quicker. Gradually over time, make it self-prescribed. You don't have to go into any level of pain when you're doing this. And if you are getting soreness after, then you rein it back a little bit in the next session that you're doing these movements. So I'm hoping that you took a little bit from that. And I found that using deep tier movements when athletes have Achilles issues is a great way to continue jumping, continue some quality work that is, you know, it can be relatively dynamic and eventually get to something that looks pretty explosive. And I think it's a great way for you to build some quality work whilst you may have Achilles issues. So give them a try. Okay, back at Triple F, best training facility in Knoxville, Tennessee. We are gonna be jumping on some weighted jumps. Gonna be lifting today as well, getting quality session in, really highly neural. So I'll see you in there. All right, so yeah, I'm thinking this is the last week maybe of at least the 50 pounds in terms of the weighted jumps, but I am gonna see how this goes. If this goes over 31 today, I'm probably gonna keep it in. Just keeps going up, so I can't argue with it at the moment. First set, nice and easy. Yeah. Gonna take a little bit more warming up for this. First set was my modulation of how fatigued I am. So second set, if this doesn't go where I want it to, yeah, it might be a case that this could be just an indication of how fatigued I am for the rest of the session, and whether I'm going to get the work done that I want to get done. Okay, 25. Let's get 26 in this next one. 26. Okay. Feeling a little bleh. Hopefully this kind of warms me up for the rest of the session though. Didn't feel good. Didn't feel good. So we'll see how the third set goes. Good indication, good testing marker to use. Something like a weighted jump. And it's this argument as well. So like, is this a form of expression or is this a true training's mean? I don't think it's a bad thing to have things in your program that are a form of expression of force and output. Matches other components like heavy squatting or slow strength or even doing something more dynamic like a plyometric. There's always this kind of in between where there could be a few movements that are more expressive in nature. And I think it helps to connect the dots a little bit better in terms of synchronization, flow, fluidity, and feeling good getting in and out of a movement as you load it and then express that force. All right, last set. I want to hit a 27 at least, which I'm probably going to get rep 1 or 2. Rep 3 seems to be a bit blech, so we'll see. Okay, let's go. First rep's got to be good. Okay, 26.8. This next one's got to be good. I'm going to go straight into it. 27.2, good. Finish off good, at least 26. 26, good. There you go, that shows kind of level of fatigue, I think, in my body. Could be just be lack of sleep with the baby, but some reasonable quality work. Might be a marker for me to kind of move on from weighted jumps, which I'm happy to do. I've spent like 8-9 weeks using weighted jumps, and I've just progressively seen this upward slope. So I'm gonna have a think about what else I'd like to do. I might put in something like a heavy clean pull, and then start to bridge the gap of maybe bringing in like a knee-high leap, working more on explosive output stuff. So, all right, so I'm gonna play with a broad into like a vertical pop-up, both bilateral patterns. Derek had me onto these. Obviously, I mean, I've done stuff like this before, but Derek kind of put a few of these up the other day, and I was like, I want to do a couple of those. So easy broad into a pop-up for height. Okay, cool. It's good distance. Again, 3 sets of just 2s here. What I always don't like is this. With people, it's just such cheating. So I'm always like, keep feet planted. First one may not have been that. So that really forces me to rock through the foot in that broad, which I really like. Whereas this, like, cheats it and gets you onto where you apply the force immediately. So it's quite nice to feet planted, allow my hips to come off the box, shins roll forward, and that's where I then feel that like force and pressure being applied at the right time. I mean, obviously then when you want to send it, you can then rock back, feet off, and really push it and be competitive, but you can kind of isolate yourself a little bit more and force that expression even deeper by doing that. All right, second set, I want to get a little bit more confident in this drive forward. So I'm actually going to notch this forward just a smidge. It's going to force me a little bit to push the broad and not cheat it too much by sending it upwards and forwards with the one for height. Just that nervous feeling in terms of that extension pattern with the groin, but I think we'll be good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, I'm safe there. I feel strange being confident to push that way, but we've got to just build that confidence there, I think. All mind over matter. Nice, I like that one. Feeling pretty good. It's definitely not great. Just the broad jump just feels like it has no, like, I don't want to push hard. I'm just kind of using like my body weight a little bit to just project me forward. And I just then have to reorganize my feet to then try and send it up. All right, last set. Let me just measure this out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. About 11 of my feet from edge of the box to the actual hurdle, like flat bar line. Okay, let's go, last set. Again, no feet off, feet planted at all times for these. Okay, a little slow to react to that vertical takeoff, but that's cool. It was a bit of a kind of like, ooh, did my groin like that on that one? It's okay, just a little bit of a pull, but that's fine. Like it, much better, much better. Good final rep. I like these. I'm gonna keep these in. I think high snatch pull and these is gonna pair really nicely. All right, so I've been using the Shreadmill as a way to kind of incrementally increase the velocity for that leg that has the groin injury. It's been great. I can set the incline, I can set the resistance and speed in which the Shreadmill moves. So I went from bounds to doing some accelerations. I kind of start off every workout of these with bounds so I can get a feel for how it feels to push through it and whether I need to increase or whether I can actually open it up and allow me to go a bit faster. So let's just give this a try, see how it feels to get going. Okay, feels pretty good. I'm gonna do one more bounding set and then I'll do a couple of accelerations. All right, here we go. Second set of bounds. All right, a little residual kind of like irritation in my groin. It's not pain, just irritates. So I'm gonna do a couple of runs here, maybe 3. And they are gonna be roughly 5-6 second runs. Probably gonna go 6 seconds. Just try and keep it smooth rather than sending it for as much speed as I can.
Well, get a little pause.
It's good. All right, set 2. I'm probably gonna do 3, I think, of these now. So in terms of what I think my groin will be able to handle. I wanna get a real good feel for that drive through and creating like a long position. Oh. Whew. Cool, if there's anything that there is, this does, it's some anaerobic threshold stuff. You can really push yourself on this. You can just go hell for leather on it, which I do like. Right, last one. Felt good on the second one, so it's the case of just getting after this. Recovery, it's good. Hard to get recovered after these. Good. Tough resistance. I think it's about right though in terms of the speed in which the Shreadmill's moving. Good acceleration stuff. All right, so like I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna splice a couple of sessions together and have a real high neural day. So I'm gonna squat, but I'm gonna lazy squat here. And just get in some pit sharks, purely because I know that it's going to get some good quality workload in, and it is going to be still relatively heavy. I don't have to focus too much. I have to think about, control of my core or anything like that. I can just send it. So start with 6 plates, doing sets of 4 to start with. Cool. All right, 8s. 7s went up good. Doing sets of 3, and probably got 8 and then 9 plates for the 3s. There we go. Try that again. All right, 3s. All right, that was a lot heavier. All right, 7. Still a 4-piece. And Snoop Doggy Dogg in here. Good. Don't use the pin again like I did before. All right, 4. That has gone up significantly in strength. 7 to each side is easy. Not easy, but way easier. All right, 9 plates for some reason. Feel the need to punish myself. No, I'm just trying to get really high stimulating days when I can. So if this writes me off for 3 days, that's fine. Eight plates gas me out. I'm trying to get a little bit more above it on this set, just so I can get my hands on. Okay, here we go. Oh, you fucker. There we go. Pin by the 9s on the 3rd rep. Fuck. Oh, nothing worse than to unrack this. All right, so as I haven't done any hamstring stuff, primarily in terms of lift, I'm just gonna do some ham curls. It's just a kind of a case of I need to get some work in, and I think in terms of neural fatigue, I think I am done. So just 3 or 4 sets of just a good pump through my hammies. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna. Woo. That's not where I wanted to go. Camera ran out of battery, but I'm not going to show you any more of the hamstring work. You see it, it's pretty boring shit. So, but really good session, getting more and more confidence in being dynamic with that groin. Liking the potential change up now from some of the weighted jumps movement to something like broad into avert. Starting to apply more force eccentrically so I can convert it concentrically and stuff. So yeah, rounded up things nicely with that. That work on the shark bit. Yeah, you get buried by it. That's fine. That's fine. Really just shows I've just got to express as much force as I can through it, which I kind of like. It's kind of how I operate when it comes to squatting and stuff. So yeah, I'll leave it here. I'll sign out. So make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.